the size of this fund and their position in the sort of ranks of Tesla shareholders make this a pretty big piece of news. And yet I do think it's worth considering too that we only have to go back to just last year, the last time that this very fund voted against a Musk pay package, and yet shareholders, in total ended up, passing a pay package for Musk by a pretty comfortable margin. That was, shareholders voting on re-ratifying the 2018 award that the judge in Delaware threw out early in 2024. So it definitely is a signal that makes you nervous if you want to see this measure pass, and yet you do have that sort of precedent of just a year ago to kind of fall back on and say, you know what, this may not matter if the very sort of passionate retail investor base that is behind this company feels as the way about Musk that they have for a very long time.
Yeah, but Norway's wealth fund raises a number of really important issues. They say that they appreciate the value that Elon Musk has created for the company, but they're concerned about the total size of the award, the dilution, and this key person risk, and how this pay package doesn't really address that. This is something Tesla can address, right? They can kind of come up with some plans or some strategy to kind of acknowledge that these are legitimate concerns. Has there been anything from the company on managing key person risk here?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think maybe there's sort of an opportunity actually to present the extent to which this board has been thinking about candidates to replace Musk. But in the course of doing a lot of work to sell investors on this pay package, we've heard a lot from Robin Denholm, the chair of the board, about just how important it is that this be approved, and yet she's been I would say pretty vague about who exactly would be tapped to step in the event that Musk's threats actually to potentially even step back from Tesla were to be realized. And so I think that kind of speaks to exactly the risk that Norway is flagging here. And I think it's something that's come up for years, where anytime there's been somebody who's looked like a sort of clear number two to Musk, that person tends not to last very long.
Yeah, I mean, in order to make the case that he deserves this major pay package over this long term, that kind of takes away from the idea that they should also be planning for a succession. It's a quandary, right, Paul?
Yeah, there's no company I've ever come across that has more key man risk than this company with Elon. Hey, Craig, so the vote's on Thursday. What are the tea leaves saying at this point?
It's really hard to say, and that was one of the interesting things when I mentioned we've spoke with Robin Denholm, the chair of the board, last week. I think even the board was pretty, Robin was pretty candid about just how little they know up until the sort of very end. I think they do point to, I mentioned that retail shareholder base. It's something like 30% of investors and of shareholders in this company are retail. I think if you're sort of reading X and the Musk fans, you sort of have every reason to think that this will go the way it went last year and the way it went when that 2018 package was initially approved. And yet I would want to sort of have a better sense of how many more big institutional investors like the Norway Wealth Fund are sort of where they are at on this pay package, which we'll find out in the next couple of days.
Craig, obviously this pay package is the big to-do item at this meeting, but surely they're going to be discussing other things at the annual shareholder meeting, right?
Yeah, I think one of the other big measures that I'm going to be watching very closely will be the investment in XAI, which that was a shareholder proposal and is being portrayed by the board as though this was sort of brought up from the shareholders themselves. I think that sort of leaves out the very important context that speaking of Musk, he sort of just threw out there on X some months back. Hey, should we Tesla invest in XAI, my AI startup, and sort of use the sort of poll he took of his followers as basis for saying, okay, I'll take this to my board of directors to see what they think. So, that I think raises all sorts of questions because of just the sheer amount of money that's being spent on all things AI. And, XAI in particular seems to be going through cash at a pretty, extreme rate. And so, on one hand, is there potential there in that the valuation of XAI seems to keep going up in these private fundraising rounds that Musk is doing? Sure, but it does seem like it's not without risk.